Now that we know how to calculate the slope using a slope triangle, we're going to look at another way to calculate the same value. This time we're looking at what happens, if you don't have a graph to draw your right triangle on and you just have the points. How could you use something else to find out what the slope is going to be? So this is the example that we did in the previous lesson with the triangle. We found the slope between the points 1, 0 and 3, 4 to be 2 because we raised 4, we ran 2, and then that simplified to positive 2. So let's take a look at the formula. The slope formula, they call slope m, which again I don't know why m, but m will come back and be handy in later lessons, but it's still delta y over delta x, or the change in y over the change in x. How do you find the change in something? You take the values and you subtract, and that will determine how much something has changed by. So our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The little 2's and 1's, the subscripts, those are just numbers helping you to identify your points. So while this formula looks a little confusing, let's take a look at an example using the same points that we did from the previous lesson to find that our slope is still 2. So we have our points 1, 0, and 3, 4. Remember, our slope formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The first thing I want to do is I want to label my points. So when you have an ordered pair looks like a parenthesis, then it's your x value, comma, your y value, and then the other parenthesis. So we know that in our points, we know that that's an x, and the 0 is a y, the 3 is an x, and the 4 is a y. But we have to put the little subscripts on it. It does not matter which one you label as 1 and 2, as long as the 1's are together in one ordered pair and the 2's are together in another ordered pair. So I could say that the first point, if I want to make the 1 x number 1, I have to make the y number 1 as well. They have to have the same subscript because they're together in the same point, which would then make the other pair x2 and y2. It would not matter if you made the point 1, x2, y2, and point 2, x1, y1. Your work would be a tad bit different, but your answer in the same, once you simplified, would be exactly the same. So let's take a look at step 2. After we label, which was step 1, step 2 is to substitute the values in the formula. So I have my formula written, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If I'm substituting, y2 we labeled as 4, so I have 4 minus y1, which is 0, over x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is 1. Now I have two things going on in this formula. I have two subtraction problems, and I have one division problem. The first thing I want to do is the subtraction problems because I cannot divide by a subtraction sign. So 4 minus 0 is 4, and 3 minus 1 is 2. So I have 4 over 2, which again simplifies to 2. So either way, using the right triangle on the grid or by using the slope formula, we still came up with the slope being exactly the same thing.